Hi, I'm Stephen Vantassel. You're listening to Living the Wildlife, discussing all things related to vertebrate pest control as part of the Pest Geek podcast family. This is the disclaimer for Wildlife Control Consultant and Pest Geek podcast for the Living the Wildlife podcast. Always follow national, state, provincial, and local laws when using pesticides and or other control methods to manage pests. Wildlife Control Consultant, LLC, Pest Geek Podcast, Living the Wildlife Podcast, Stephen M. Vantassel, or their or his affiliates are not responsible for followers' use of the information provided here. Hi, everyone. Stephen Vantassel here, Wildlife Control Consultant, bringing another episode of Living the Wildlife as part of the Pest Geek podcast family. Glad to have you on board. Let me have you do a few things for me first. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and give us a 5-star review. We'd be most appreciative of that. Also, if you need to reach out to me, you can get me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. If you're wondering if you're hearing a little background noise, I'm having my roof done. So they've done most of it on my side of the house, but there are some things that they're finalizing. I was hoping they were going to finish up the rest of it before we started recording. So if you're hearing some thumping, that's what you're hearing. They're pounding the shingles down into the roof. So I'm hoping that's going to fade off as we continue our podcast here today. So again, if you need to reach me, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. As you can see, we have a guest here. Those of you that have been following the podcast know that we've had him here before. His name is Bill Dowd. He is the president and CEO of Skedaddle Humane Wildlife Control. It's one of the franchises in the wildlife control space. And we brought him back in the show to talk about how his franchise is going and where he thinks the industry is moving forward. But before we do all that, let's welcome you to the show and tell us a little about how you got into wildlife control.
Great. Thanks for having me on again, Stephen. It's a real pleasure.
Sure.
I kind of just fell into the wildlife industry. We're corporate offices in Canada, and we're close to Niagara Falls, so our city is cut in half by the Niagara Peninsula, where Niagara Falls falls over. So lots of wilderness and green space cutting the city in half. And lo and behold, it worked in Hamilton. We're an hour outside of Toronto, which Toronto likes to claim it's as the raccoon capital of the world. We beg to differ, being in Hamilton, that there's just as many raccoons in Salt Lake City, Denver, New York, Montreal, Vancouver. They all have urban wildlife. So that was way back in 1989. And
wow, you've been old timer. Okay.
Yeah, 33 years and or 34 years. And basically every single city we've expanded into, we've been successful. So we thought the opportunity was there to start franchising, bring in our unique hands-on removal methods and home protection services, the animal proofing of structures, to America. So that's what our focus is right now.
So why don't you describe briefly, for a lot of our audience may not be familiar with your overall philosophy of work. So we have a mixture, of course, of wildlife control operators and then pest control operators, who some of them will dabble or looking to get more into wildlife control. So talk about how your company is unique in terms of what other companies do. Some people may still remember Critter Control when it was independent before it got taken over by Orkin. I guess Rollins is the official company that took it over. But talk a little about that.
Sure. So our methods, we don't trap. We don't believe in live trapping animals and relocating. There's documented studies out there that show 70% of relocated animals, don't survive. So our focus is on animal proofing the structure. And that's where we make the most of our revenue. On any home, there's anywhere from 30 to 50 areas that wildlife can gain entry, even more if you're talking rodents, mice, and rats. So what we do is, we'll go into the home, get up into that attic space, crawl around, physically find those babies, whether it be baby raccoons, baby squirrels, pick them up by hand. We take them on the outside. We reunite them back with the mother. We have this baby reunion box, which we put on the roof close to the entry point. We then animal proof the entire structure, give the homeowner a lifetime guarantee that if those raccoons or squirrels or skunks get back in, we come back out and do the entire process again for free.
Wow.
So, we've developed these exclusion or these home protection services over 30 years. So we know when we humanely remove them, keep those family units together, animal proof that structure, they're not getting back in.
Right.
So, we used to do 1 year guarantee, 2 years guarantees, 3, 5, 10. Finally, we said, you know what? When it's
Yeah.
done right, they never get back in. Let's give that
Yeah.
lifetime warranty.
So does that require, like, with if I have termite control, and I have a company come in and they treat the termites, they put a barrier around my foundation. In order for me to have a quote lifetime guarantee, I have to pay them, at least I did when it was in the termite area. I had to pay them an annual fee every year for them to come out and quote unquote inspect the property and maintain that warranty. Is that the same business model, or is it just we handled raccoons? If you have raccoons in your building again, we come back at no cost?
We come back at no cost. We want to be
Wow.
a friendly, happy company to do business with. People spend a lot of money for our services,
Uh,
and our training methodologies for our staff and for our franchise owners. It's online, it's in person. We teach everyone how to do it properly, so we know that they're not going to get back in. Now, do they get back in on occasion? Of
sure.
course they do.
Yeah.
And then we feel that's good business practice, that we're back in that neighborhood. We're taking care of the situation. We're making that client happy, so that great advertising, word of mouth, will spread that,
Yeah.
hey, I had Skedaddle out 5 years ago. The raccoon, the squirrel, the skunk got back in. They came out. They took care of my problem for me. What a great company. So
That's
we feel
amazing.
it's a lot of fantastic PR by, honoring what we say we're going to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible because one of the challenges, let me just throw out raccoons. I mean, there are situations where there is no opening. All right, the house is secure, and raccoons have had, and there've been a number of wildlife control operators that have mentioned this, where the raccoon simply drills straight through the shingles, right through I don't know how they figure out there's a gap there, or they just rip through it, but somehow, I mean, I've only seen it once personally, but it was amazing. It was
Yeah,
like, so is that, and you're backing that up, and like, because there's nothing you would have done, quote unquote, wrong there. It's not
right.
like you did anything wrong, but the raccoon said, I'm getting in here
They can be,
regardless.
as we all know, they can be extremely determined. They
Yeah.
need a crack or crevice, and they'll get back in. Sometimes situations like that, it's during mating season or baby
Mhm.
season, that a mother has been separated from the young, and
Yeah.
we all know how destructive a mother
Oh,
animal
sure.
would
Yeah.
be to get back
Yeah.
in. So, in those cases, we're gonna take care of it. We also do a deodorizing in the attic, which covers up the hormonal smell. So that way, in a square mile, studies have indicated there's anywhere 15 to 50 raccoons, squirrels, probably in the hundreds. We cover up that hormonal scent so that other raccoons that are in the neighborhood are not going to smell that there may have been a female in there in heat.
Mm,
So that way we just have to worry about the animals that know that's a den site from memory. We can never erase their memory, but
right.
we can
Right.
make the house animal proof.
That's amazing. So, and what are the types? So, how often, in terms of, do you have any numbers on the percentage of your company that's following up someone else's company? You have, even people in wildlife control, they're like, yeah, I had to follow up this company to fix what they did. How often is that a substantial part of your business? Is it a small part of your business? Where does that fit in the business model?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a substantial, but it does happen fairly frequently,
Mhm.
especially in birthing season, when we're getting, these operators that maybe just start in business. They don't know animal biology, or perhaps they're pest control operators that are just dabbling in wildlife. They want to keep their pest client happy. And they'll set a trap and take that nursing mother away. And, then we have to go in and rescue, babies that have been suckling on insulation for days on end, or, removing dead carcasses that are in wall cavities, or
Mm,
inaccessible attic spaces. So it does happen. And, unfortunately, um, you know, in most states and provinces in Canada, it's not a regulated industry. So,
right.
basically anybody with a pickup truck and a trap can say they're in business. So,
Yeah.
and we
Right.
bring that little professionalism to the industry. We feel that, educating the public and our homeowners or our clients is a big part of what we do here at Skedaddle.
Yeah, I think I saw some data that said somewhere around 34 states. I think I can't speak for Canada, but I think it's around 34 states, maybe a little bit higher, have some level of regulation on wildlife control. But certainly the state that I live in, Montana, zip, you can, I'm a wildlife
Do
control
whatever.
operator
Away
today
you go. Yeah.
in the way you go. So,
And
I think I think there's some growth. I mean, I think things are probably leveled off. The states that are probably going to do it are going to do it, have already done it by now because the industry's sort of mature. But do you see any, does your company do any lobbying in that direction to try to get states to do more regulatory control?
not really. We feel, we like to expand our footprint, throughout the US. We think it's a huge market opportunity. In fact, our franchising dollars are being spent on growth in the US. Canada, I wouldn't want to say we're totally sold out, but there's only
Yeah,
so many major
right.
cities left in Canada, very few. So we see the growth of this industry is in the US with the
Yeah.
population, the major US cities. Um, so that's where we're kind of focusing our attention right now. And we feel when we get into a market, we're the disruptor.
Mhm.
Our competition, which is setting traps, they might be dabbling in some wildlife repair work or exclusion methods. So we're kind of piquing their interest, and well, who is Skedaddle? Where'd they come from all of a
Yeah.
sudden? And we've just recently opened our newest franchises, and we had two territories in Maryland, just outside of
Oh,
Washington D.C.
yeah.
In fact, today was his first day of opening. Him and his general
Oh,
manager were up here training last week, and
wow.
he had a groundhog job. He sold exclusion there, and I just before we came on the podcast here, I just got a message from them that they booked their first bat assessment. So
Gotcha. Oh, no
that
kidding. Well, congratulations on that.
yeah, and
Maryland
that
would
and
be a
that
good
came
market.
that came from, as you said, another company, a pest control company came
Yeah,
out and said it's bats. Unfortunately, we don't deal with bats, and
sure.
um,
Yeah.
then we got the call. So
Yeah.
we're
Well,
excited about that.
at least they didn't make a mistake. So that's which is cool. I mean, that's not every company does everything, and so if they know
Right,
when to walk away, that's awesome. I mean, there's a
right,
place for that. So I don't want to throw
exactly.
them under the bus for that. That's certainly fine. How do you? So let's talk about the franchise then. So if someone in our audience is like, I'm interested in wildlife control, or maybe they have a business and they're looking to up their game a little bit, or perhaps get into a more system where they can have uh, that assistance that can be provided and that covering that can be provided by a franchise type system. What would be the process and what would be your ideal candidate? What should someone think about if they were looking to go into a franchise like yours? What do they need? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if someone is already in the wildlife industry, they can convert their operation into a Skedaddle franchise. We're going to help and assist them, whether it be our marketing, our professional call center that's opened 7 days a week, 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. We're going to teach them and educate them on how they can grow that business. With all of our franchisees, we want to get them out of that service truck. We don't want them working in the business. We want them working on the business.
On the
So,
business.
maybe you're in the wildlife industry right now and you're, plugging along and you're making a great living, and, you have maybe one truck, two trucks on the road. We all get older, and there's going to be a time where, climbing those ladders and
Perish the thought. Perish the
yeah,
thought.
scampering
Yeah.
across those roofs or crawling through insulation might not seem as interesting as it was once. So, we're going to allow you to, grow a business and have a business. And, as I say to a lot of our franchise applicants, if I had purchased a McDonald's franchise 40 years ago versus starting Bill's hamburger joint, you
Yeah.
know, 40 years down the road, when I'm going to sell it, I'm going to get a lot larger return on my investment being
Yeah.
part of McDonald's
Right.
and Bill's Hamburger. So that's what we're trying to grow here. We're all in this together, all of our franchisees. We all realize at some point in our lives, we're going to say, time to retire. So, you
Yeah.
know, teaching those individuals who are already in the wildlife or pest control field that, let me help you grow your business and get five, six, seven trucks on the road.
Yeah. And
So
what is the market when you sell a franchise? What kind of markets does someone need to have? Is it, 300,000 people, 1 million people? What is the market size you're looking for?
we typically, our market size is 500,000 people is a single territory. And, just from a sales perspective, based on, all of our locations right now, we have over 30, I think we're up to 38, close to over 40 in the next couple of weeks. We have a couple of more announcements coming with more franchisees joining our system. Um, a quick general rule of thumb is if there's 500,000 people in that city, you should minimal have $500,000 in sales.
Okay.
If not, we're going to help you out. I mean, we have some franchisees that are performing, basically $2 for every
Right.
person. So a $500,000 territory, they're doing $1 million in sales. And that's just in wildlife alone. We also have 3 other service lines that franchisees are allowed to add to their business. Pest control, attic restoration. So when raccoons and squirrels urinate and defecate and ruin that insulation, we
Yeah.
suck out all that contaminated insulation, blow an environmentally friendly cellulose insulation, the
Yeah.
tap insulation.
Okay. TAP program.
And then last but not least, the real fun, not that dealing with baby raccoons and squirrels and skunks isn't fun enough. We do professional Christmas decorating. So,
Oh,
we
okay.
have the
All right.
we have the service trucks, we have the ladders, we just kind of switch some of our crews and wildlife all jump into the Christmas decorating, and it's a real fun, when people are spending, our average price per job across all of our franchises around $2,500 to get the animals out and totally animal proof that structure.
Ooh.
Um, so, we jump into the Christmas and, it might be, around $2,000, $1,500, our average price for a Christmas customer, but it's repeatable revenue.
Yeah. Right.
With our system and our training, we have a 75% renewal rate. So you can kind of, staff up, going into the Christmas season, and then you hit the ground running in the springtime when babies are born for your wildlife portion of your business. So
Oh, no
all
kidding.
these systems, and we just like to, sometimes we call ourselves a marketing company, just happens to, catch raccoons, switch bugs, and hang Christmas lights.
Yeah. So a 500,000, and what is like that would be half. That would be almost half of Montana. So 500,000 people. We have like 1.1, 1.2 million people in the entire state. So that would be, yeah, half the state. That'd be a tough market
Well,
because the
and
driving.
having
Yeah.
said that, we have, some, we're looking for those people who enjoy a big city and grow a business to,
Yeah.
10, 15, 20 service trucks. We have
Right.
smaller franchises, for example, in Sudbury, Ontario. It's northern Ontario, about
Yeah.
6 hours north of Toronto, probably the same latitude as Minnesota. His population is around 150,000 people.
Oh,
And,
okay. He's still able to make a go of it.
he's making a go at it, by himself. He's got an assistant. I think he takes most of the winter off, goes out on the lake, does some ice fishing. So he's got a great quality of life, that
Oh, okay.
work-life balance. I mean, he works hard in the summertime, in the springtime, wintertime when there's a large snow, and he just doesn't want to be out in that cold. So, those smaller communities, it might, with when you add on the Christmas, the pest control, the attic insulation, you could definitely make a go of it with 150,000, 200,000
Oh,
people.
okay. All right. Well, that's an important distinction. So now, is the cost of the franchise less for those smaller communities, or does it scale on the basis of the size, or is it like is he paying the same price as for 150,000 people as someone in a 500,000 person area?
Right. We have a standard price for the franchise fee for, using of the website, all of
Okay.
our marketing, the call center. So our franchise fee is 49.5,
Okay.
which, we feel is quite reasonable. We have you can get into some with Skedaddle, we can get into some large, rodent proofing, where we're sealing up homes for mice. We researched and developed this over 25 years ago, where, I tested it out on family and friends, and, I got
Mhm.
tired of going out to a call and say, oh, it's mice, we can't help you, call a pest
Right.
control
Right.
operator. So we figured out how to mouse proof a home. Now, sealing up any crack or crevice is very time consuming and very labor
Yes.
intensive and very costly. So, it can, mice work can be, $3, $4, $5, $6,000. And,
Right.
it's a different alternative than rodenticides and, snap traps and what have you. So,
Well, I would think that with the amount of regulation that's increasing on rodenticides, is what that coupled with the greater public concern about some of the downsides of rodenticides, I would think there's going to be greater demand for the exclusion side. So I guess I want to explore a little bit of that exclusion side. The With your warranty, you have the same warranty even for mice.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
that just blows my mind, because I guess I've been always telling people that I think you can only mouse proof a structure from year to year, because the building, I I call the building sort of like a
Yep.
living thing, in that the
Hmm.
building is changing, and those are things fully out of the wildlife control operator's control. I mean, and so, but you're still warrantying at that level. That is just amazing to me.
Yeah, as I said, there's a lot of trials and tribulations for years and years on end to kind of get the system,
Oh
the
gosh.
system, the system properly. The procedures and the methodologies, and where they get in, what they chew through to get back in, what they don't.
Right, right,
I've
right.
got some great, wildlife people on staff who live and breathe wildlife, and I put the challenge out to them. They figured it out, and yeah, but we're seeing, across the Skedaddle brand or franchise system, we're probably seeing 150 homes a day. So we do a lot of, I think mice and rats make up over 50% of our revenue doing the exclusion work.
Yeah, no,
So
I would think that if you could do that, because I mean, I'm looking at my own house, and I've the garage doors are certainly going to be a challenge, getting those tightened up to a degree. And if you're looking at a $6,000 job for my house, uh, that would probably not be bad. That would not probably be a bad price. I'm thinking, see, I've already tightened up a number of areas, but the garage doors that's a biggie.
garage, they can be tricky. So
That's
sometimes we
good.
need to look at the interior of the garage and seal that interior so that mice can get into the garage, but then they can't access into the walls or into the attic
Mhm.
space. So
Yeah,
we can give homeowners that option based on what the type of garage door is and
right.
how secure it is to the foundation.
Yeah.
Um, but
Because one little
it's
bump with the car, that's all gone. That is truly an amazing that's truly an amazing thing. So let's talk about your attic restoration program. So your how are you handling the removal of, let's say, bat guano in Ohio River Valley, where histoplasmosis is a major concern, as it is in other places as well, or something like raccoon roundworm? And what is the process, broadly speaking, about all that?
Well, safety is number one here at Skedaddle. Whether
Right.
we're on a roof and fully tied off and anchored into the roof,
Mhm.
or going into an attic wearing proper respirators and gloves and Tyvek suits and properly securing the attic space and sucking out with our vacuums all that contamination. Sometimes, depending on the extent of it, contamination, we don't even put our hoses through the homeowner's home, because you're contaminating all the rugs and whatnot going up the
Yeah.
stairs, getting into the attic space. So, a lot of times we'll actually go in through the roof vent and
Yeah.
access the attic that way. So, obviously, then getting into a bin and covering the bin so that the histoplasmosis or other parasites aren't being stirred up, taking that away. So yeah, we're very, very conscious on our health and safety, because we
That's
realize
amazing.
this is just a job. We want everybody to get home safe every
Sure.
single day, and
Yeah.
don't put yourself in a perilous position. Wear your safety products and materials, and of course, on a roof, make certain you're secured.
So with labor challenges the way they are, it certainly makes sense when you have someone who's an owner operator. But how do I mean, many people in the wildlife control space struggle with finding labor that can be relied on. And certainly as the industry grays, I'm 58 now, so I'm one of the old timers, but I'm not climbing around roofs anymore, right? So I mean, there's a number of people that are still doing it, but their body is wearing out. Some bodies wear out faster than others. How does how do you what do you see the future there? How are we going to recruit more people into this industry that are young enough to sort of do the gymnastics that's sometimes required in the job.
That is, it seems it's getting tougher and tougher, every year. I think it's not just in our wildlife industry, but everywhere. So, we find that, people that enjoy the outdoors, they don't like their boss breathing down their neck, giving them little perks and, whether it be the company truck or a good cell plan or health care, and of course, paying them well,
Yeah.
and treating people, with respect. We find that, um, when people come into Skedaddle, if they like the job, they get over that 1 year mark, they're here for many, many years. I have, some staff that have been with me 20, 25 years.
Wow. Wow.
So, as you grow your business, whether you're a Skedaddle franchise, you need people to make money,
Right. Right.
as you say, a one man operation, you're going to get worn out. I have, competitors that have been my competitors here in Canada for 30 years, and I see them, and they're saying, I don't know how long I can do this, and
Yeah.
so that's why with Skedaddle we're going to help you, get you grow that business so you can get an assistant or two trucks and a supervisor and a manager and scale that business. So you can be the face of the business and work on growing it.
Do you think that there is a place for the industry to create a trade school that would, whether it's just like people go to school to become like a truck driver, maybe a 3-month intensive course. I don't know exactly what the time on it, but it's not like your entire life, but you have an intensive time where you're getting the qualifications you need to become a tractor trailer driver, right? So that's pretty regulated now. Do you think there's a need for that for some of our technical community colleges to sort of have a wildlife control operator course?
I think it would be a great opportunity if they did that, because you'd have people coming into the industry who love the outdoors. Maybe they're hunters or fishermen, that they can work in something they went to school for, and they're enjoying that outdoor, that flexibility, that freedom. I think that would be a great opportunity, and I think our industry, people really don't know it even exists until people have a problem.
Right.
And
No, it's
and,
a
and, and
crisis
it,
business.
right, yeah. In the old days, I'm dating myself. They go to the yellow pages and flip through it.
That's
Oh,
right.
that company
Yep.
looks good. Where
Yep.
now everything online, they can do a lot of research before they decide who they want to come out to their home. But
Yeah, and there,
um,
and you go to and you have to go unplug the ultrasound, right? I mean, that's
yeah,
it's like so that how do we just for those of you in the audience, there's no real evidence that ultrasound has ever really worked to drive animals out of a structure. So there is some evidence that allows the ultrasound that some animals don't like it, to be sure, but will it repel or drive animals out of a structure? And all the research says no. If you have research that says otherwise, I would welcome reading it because I'm happy to get my mind changed. So, but send it along, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. So, um, I guess if you were given your position looking over the industry, you have contact with multiple businesses. What do you see the biggest need or the biggest need in the industry right now? If you could wave a magic wand, and is it a tool? Is it a law? Is it a technique? What would be, if you could wave it, what would it be?
I think if I could wave a wand and you know, get rid of live trapping,
Okay.
because, I really believe that, these animals are in our city limits. They're here to stay. Whether you trap, every year we'll come to a customer. Oh, I trap 15 squirrels a year. How long have you been doing that? Oh, 20 years. Well, that's a great hobby. We all know, when you take one animal out of an area, another one just moves in and take its place.
Mhm.
So, having the industry more focusing on, it's not the animal that's the problem, it's the house that's the problem.
Yeah.
Whether it be missing shingles or rotted wood or open chimney, having the industry focus more on the animal proofing, the home protection services, because we're just we're past that time. There's so
Yeah.
many animals in our urban centers. There's no way we're ever going to get rid of them all. And
Yeah. So how would you respond to someone who says, that's just simply they couldn't afford the cost. So yeah, they would say, I would love to get my house fixed, but the reason it declined to this level in the first place is that they're basically, working poor or something, whatever the reason is. Some are beyond their control. Some of it's just sometimes bad decisions over lifetime. But how would you respond to that? Like they say, I can't afford because they don't have, let's say, $2,000 to drop down and have the house quote unquote proofed. How
Right.
would you how would you respond to that?
That's a great question because obviously we come across that on a daily basis,
Yeah,
where, we want to, people like that, we want to be able to help them, whether it be we offer them a payment plan, whether it be over 1 year or 2 years, that, they don't have to put out that big chunk of money up front. Or we give them the option that, maybe there's, one entry hole, and then there's a mirror image of another of the entry area. Maybe we just seal up those two areas. We don't have to seal up all the vents on the roof and everything. Our focus is we want to educate that public and let them make the decision on what items they want to go with. But there's always the opportunity that, they can go with a minimal job, whether it be, $500, $600, something like
right,
that.
right.
So
Okay.
giving them that option, that, there's ways around that, especially during the birthing season where, we don't want that homeowner say, call another company, set that live trap that nursing squirrel,
Right,
take it
right,
out to the country, let it go, and then we have to go back out and rescue those babies before they starve
right,
to death.
right. Just for some of our audience, not all states allow translocation of wildlife, so make sure you check your state regulations. So about the translocation of wildlife. So just check that. But yeah, okay. So that would be the problem. And so I guess the next question would be is where do you what is the greatest advancement in the industry that you've seen in your time? I guess you probably say one of them is just the exclusion technology and the reuniting of young with their with their mother, or do you see any other
So
types of
that's
advances in the industry that you think have been like revolutionary?
Yeah, the home exclusion is something we've always done, 30, 34 years. I think technology, whether it be databases where you can look up the homeowner, what went on in that job site, how much work did we do? Did we take, three baby raccoons out, five baby raccoons out, where did we put them? How did we release them? Where do we put that baby box? Whether it be drones or infrared cameras or, you know, uh, loner alarms that are on technicians hips, so because they're
Mhm.
climbing roofs, and if they fall, that alarm gets set to the office. We
That's
really,
amazing. Okay.
yeah, we really focus on technology as one of our competitive advantages, that
Yeah, yeah.
all we need now is a cell phone, a tablet. Our technicians, they don't have to come to an office every day. They wake up, they jump in their truck that's in their driveway, they go to their job site, they go home at the end of the day, and everything's digital. So gone are the old days when you had to fax in your reports at the end of the day, or you had to drive halfway through an hour worth of traffic at 5 o'clock to
Right,
go to the
right.
office and drop off your paperwork. And
Paperwork.
yeah, just these little things that we can explain to young people who are coming into the industry, that we can make this a good occupation for you.
Right,
You get a
right.
company truck, you don't have to drive your own car, you don't have to use your own gas, it's the company's gas. So bringing those people into the industry, that it's supplying everything for them, versus you hear these people that are mechanics or what have you, that they have to go buy their own tools or use their own vehicle, that type of thing. That it's a competitive game trying to get good people. So you have to
Right.
be on your game to get those people to come in and join your organization.
Yeah, that's an amazing. I think the labor issue is got to be one of the biggest in the industry. I've always suggested to some business owners, I should maybe not always, I have suggested to business owners that we have to find a way to, if you want to keep, when you have a good person, one way to keep them is make them part of the company. Is there, what is your opinion of that? Like you give them a stake in the company, even if if you're incorporated, you usually get a certain number of shares for your corporation, and you carve out some of those shares for that employee. Do you see that as a way to keep people, or do you think that's just too simplistic and there's a better way to do it?
Yeah, in my opinion, as being a business owner is, having partners or somebody also own it with you. You have to, or an employee giving them shares in the company, and then they're getting into your financials, and you have to divulge a lot more. Versus, we focus on giving them what we call as profit sharing. That the entire company is working as a team to hit a sales goal, and when
Mhm.
we hit that goal, then what we call that is our profit sharing. That everybody gets a bonus on a per month basis, saying you did a great job this month. There's a little bonus for you, and then with as we all know, weather can play an impact on, you lose a day, especially in northern climates with snow or rain or tornadoes. So, you have to be kind of flexible. So maybe you have a quarterly target, or a semi-annual target, or even an annual target that here's our goal for the year. And then people are rewarded as we hit those. So it's about a real team effort. Everybody's, rowing in the same direction. Everybody wants to hit that target, and then everybody gets rewarded after the fact for doing such a great job.
Have you found in that sort of profit sharing aspect, have you found that workers tend to treat that as part of their salary rather than as a true bonus, and then they overspend, and it's like a treadmill that you can't get off of, so how do they, because they can't make that grow, it's like, what is it? Consumption always fills the rate of supply.
It does happen where
Yeah.
oh we just missed our target. I was counting on that, and
Yeah.
so yeah. Then as a business owner, I think you have to have that flexibility. That sometimes you say, well, you're a great employee. You haven't had me cause a problem. Maybe I'll give you some top up your pay with a little bonus, or maybe a bigger Christmas bonus, or something
Mhm.
depending on how the health of the company, if they had a great year or not. That there's always ways that and I think employees really appreciate something that comes out of the blue. That
Right, right.
handing them a $1,000 bonus just before Christmas, or 2,000 or 3,000, whatever, based
Mhm.
on, hey, maybe you missed a couple of targets, but the company had a great year, which is the
Right.
important part. There you go. You've been, because we all know hiring, first off, finding somebody and training them, getting them up to speed to your company culture and methodologies, takes time and is a big investment. So if you have a good employee, you want to keep them. So
Right, right.
do what you can do to keep them on board versus starting from scratch.
Sure. And where do you see the growth area within the industry? I mean, you have a particular niche here in terms of a method of control, but do you see any niches down, any growth areas like a new species or a new wildlife human conflict that needs to be resolved that's on the horizon? What do you see when you use your crystal ball? What do you see down the road?
Well, love to have a franchise in the South and Florida and see some of those snakes and respond to those calls. uh,
Well, that
you
may
know,
happen. You never know.
yeah, we're
That's
still waiting for a Badger call in Wisconsin with our
okay.
franchise there, but
Yeah, I don't think they have a lot of badgers anymore in Wisconsin, so I think
no,
that's
I
been
know
a problem. No, I think you had to come to Montana for some of that.
yeah, I mean, I have about five guys that work at our corporate locations that would, jump on a plane in a second to one of these snake calls or a Badger call or something out of the ordinary. Um, no, I just think, these, as we, with rodenticides, greater restrictions on that is
Right.
going to, I think, force a lot of pest control companies to get into the exclusion or using snap traps or different methodologies. And, I just think these animals, every year, it still amazes me. I'm not an accountant, but my accountants
Mhm.
say, Bill, double digit growth for 30 years. Like it's unheard of. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. These animals are just keep
Yeah, they
populating
just
and repopulating, and we don't have to worry about recessions or COVID or
right,
you
right,
know mating season happens, mother nature happens every
right,
year, and
right.
we know we're going to get those peak months. And if you run a good business, there's no reason you can't be successful.
Yeah, and I think there's such a I think the other challenge is that we don't have the same saturation point that the pest control industry has. Of course, there's been a tremendous amount of consolidation there in the pest control industry, but it's also so labor intensive that it's even though that we don't have some of the regulatory barriers that the pest control industry has to entry. I mean, uh, it's so time intensive, and it's not something you can just simply. I mean, I love the pest control world because they rely on the chemical to do a lot of the work. It's like, yeah, there's work applying it and all that and doing it properly. I get all that, but when you're leaving, it's doing its job while you're gone. That is a very difficult thing in the wildlife control field because you have got, I mean, a trap does that to a certain degree, but you've got to go back.
Right.
It's not
And
just there, right?
yeah, we do our methodology, we do the difficult things that nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to
Right.
get up into their attic and crawl
That's
around.
right.
So it is very labor intensive versus,
Very limited.
with our pest control division, we find that, and it still amazes me that, pest control, you're using chemicals, you have to have your license. There's so much more regulations to it, but it's a race to the bottom. You'll
It
get
is. Yeah.
a grocery store or some small little business, and they're charging $35 or $50 a
Yeah.
month. I mean, so we kind of leave those to the side because it still baffles
Not
me
to,
that you should be
not
charging $500 for a month, but a
right.
restaurant, we all go
Yeah.
to restaurants and they all have pest control, and the
Yeah.
pest guy, if he's charging $50 a month to do his treatment and somebody else comes in at 45, well, that restaurant's going to somebody else for
Right.
45. It seems like it's a real race to the bottom. So
It is.
it'd be nice to see the pest control actually charging more for their services.
Yeah,
It
no, I
is what
think
it is.
you're spot on. It's difficult, but it also there's a lot of churn in the pest control world as well. There's so much churn, and it is hard in that particular area. Well, as we're wrapping up here, what are some final comments that you want to leave the audience before they need some topic that we didn't cover? Something you want, maybe another spiel for those who are interested in franchising, how did they get in contact with you? However you want to close out here before I do my closing spiel.
Yeah, I think, if there's any operators out there that are, kind of struggling, have one or two vehicles and want to convert their business into a Skedaddle franchise, I love seeing people be successful, whether it be my first employee I hired who, finally got to buy a house and had a family. If you're struggling in that wildlife field, we can help you. We've been there. They said we're going to be over 40 locations across Canada and US in the next week or two.
Well,
Um,
congratulations.
Yes, thank you. So, helping you and let me grow your business with you and help you along so that you can have a better life, a better work balance. You can enjoy your weekends with your family or take a long weekend and know you have staff working for you. Because the wildlife industry, I think, it's a very essential service. And, when people are fed up with hearing those noises in their roof or in their chimney or a skunk underneath their deck, they're ready to buy. And, us as operators, bringing that professionalism and, solving their problem, goes a long way. And as I said, it's a fun business. I
Yeah,
still wake up every day, over 30 years and, can't wait to, get out. I'm not in the field anymore, but speaking with potential franchise owners, who are going through our system, who are checking us out, and letting them know the ins and outs of how they can be a successful businessman and have a better work-life balance.
do you have an annual meeting with your franchise, or is that a virtual meeting, or do you all come together in a location?
Well, with COVID, it was virtual, and
Right.
then
Well, yeah,
we couldn't get Canadians couldn't cross the border of the U.S. Americans couldn't come to Canada, but
yeah, yeah,
so we went virtual for a couple of years, but this year, yeah, we were back to in person, which is a great exchanging of ideas. Where
right, right.
you have someone from the East Coast, talking to somebody from the West Coast or the Midwest and saying, well, what are you finding out? And just that camaraderie and seeing that you're part of a bigger organization, and that you might have a great idea that you can bring to the table, and we will research it and develop and bring it
Yeah,
back out to the system. That I come from a sports background, so I'm a big team player. That I feel that more people on the team, the bigger we all grow. So
that's right.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. People sometimes can underestimate the importance of just the intellectual depth and knowledge depth that you can have with a larger organization. That you can get the unvarnished
right.
information because you're not worried about competing with someone. You're not competing with your fellow franchisors, so you can be much more transparent than you might be in an association or something. Yeah,
Right, exactly. Little
yeah,
tips that you have that you can share with amongst the
right.
team, and some great ideas come out of that allow us to grow together. So it's an exciting time getting him. We'd like to get maybe a few more franchises into the fold, and then we can look at those exotic vacations, whether it be, or not
Sure,
vacations,
done.
exotic spots.
Well, I
So
would think in Florida you'll probably get somebody sooner or later because there's some interesting things happening down there.
yeah,
So
there sure
not to
is.
mention the population is going way up again with that. So without a
Yeah.
doubt. Well, Bill, thanks for being with us. We've been listening or talking with Bill Dowd. He is the president and CEO of Skedaddle Humane Wildlife Control, one of the franchise industries in the wildlife control space. But they do more than wildlife control. They have a division that deals with wildlife control, of course, pest control, attic restoration, and even Christmas ornaments, believe it or not, decorating in terms of houses. So if you're interested in getting into a franchise, or you want to explore that possibility to get part of a larger organization and get that coaching and insight and system that may be able to help you make a lot more money, you may want to reach out to Bill and have a chat. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. You can reach him, of course, just go to skedaddlewildlife.com, skedaddlewildlife.com, and you can see the spelling right there on the back of his picture and his picture, Skedaddle Humane Wildlife Control, but skedaddlewildlife.com. You've been listening to Living the Wildlife as part of the Pest Geek podcast family. I'm Stephen Vantassel, so do take a few moments, if you would, to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, give us a 5-star review if you can do so honestly. If not, well, perhaps you can ignore saying anything. If you want to give me tips and suggestions and topics for future shows, you can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Yes, even criticisms. We'll take those as well because we want to make the show better. But if you have a suggestion, otherwise, I'm just going to talk about what I think about. We'd love to hear that as well so we can make sure we're meeting your particular needs. You can visit my podcast, of course, on YouTube. But if you don't like YouTube, I'm always posting up on Rumble as well. In fact, often my podcast comes out quicker on Rumble than it does on YouTube. But nevertheless, again, this is Living the Wildlife. And why do we call it Living the Wildlife? Because we want you to live the wildlife, not be the wildlife. Take care, everybody.